This is my video response to the Illuminati. I don't mean any disrespect or harm, but she has gotten lots of points wrong, and I feel that they need to be addressed to avoid hurting everyone. I'll be showing a few clips from her original video and responding to them, as well as adding some points of my own for reference. Let's start by quickly talking about the lawsuits. One of the main issues with these lawsuits is that they are very clearly a scam. The wording in the cover alone is a flat-out lie. Looking further into who is running the main lawsuits turns up a serial lawyer who has gone after other open-source projects in the past. The only choices are either they are ignorant or deliberately lying. Other things like using the entire DeviantArt terms of service to pad out the evidence folder are very concerning. It's a clear cash grab and will only hurt everyone in the long run. They aren't the little guy fighting against the man. They're using people with real concerns to pad their pockets. Now that we've gotten through the legal elephant in the room, we can move on to the main video.
A good camera doesn't make everyone a photographer after all. But the difference here is that you still need a person to compose the image itself. No one's smartphone is growing legs, directing a model, finding a good lighting angle, and snapping the picture, at least not yet anyway. Whereas with AI, you can get the end result, the end product, like an image or an article with the click of a button.
But that's exactly what people need to do to use these tools as well. You can't just write a basic prompt and expect something amazing to come out. As much as you might dislike the idea of it taking some skill, the reality of the situation is that it does.
The story is about a young girl who builds her own AI robot and then learns about how the technology needs to be treated with care, as it could be used for good or evil. Plenty of artists would argue that this is a lesson Reshi himself never learned because he had a conversation with a robot to help create the story itself and AI-generated art for the illustrations.
Why should I have to worry about what other people think about my work if it's released by me? This wasn't passed off as a human-written book, so why should anyone even mention it being unethical? Why should others be able to tell me what tools I can use for my own projects?
Using AI as inspiration and a tool is one thing, but claiming or implying I made this thing and directly mimicking someone else when posting the art is another thing.
If I get inspiration from other artists and make my own work, it's not stealing anything. It's not recreating their art, it's simply learning. The last part of the statement is just disingenuous. No one is making that kind of money with these things. These people share the models publicly and freely. There may be a few outliers, but they are just as hated by us as they are by you.
A human would have been involved in the production and used that money to pay bills. Now AI has replaced that person and effectively removed a talented human in the process. Does that mean that AI is replacing artists as a whole? Well, not necessarily.
Again, that isn't accurate. That would be like asking someone if I can see their art. Everyone takes inspiration from everyone else.
Stalinhag does not like the way new technologies can be set up to enrich already powerful tech companies and CEOs. AI is the latest and most vicious of these technologies, he says. It basically takes lifetimes of work by artists without consent and uses that data as the core ingredient in a new type of pastry that it can sell at profit with the sole aim of enriching a bunch of yacht owners.
And that's exactly why you can't restrict its use. Large companies will always have the resources to build whatever system they want. You need to make sure that the smaller open source projects can compete, because if they can't, it's going to be a massive problem. No one wants a world where the only people with access to artificial intelligence are big tech companies.
As somebody who makes my money and finds my joy in writing, it's deeply troubling to see people seeking cheap alternatives to actual human writing, which is already one of the most deliriously underpaid professions.
I'm sorry to sound rude, but maybe don't choose writer as your career. It's a fine hobby, but that is something you chose to do. You not having the forethought to check to see if it was possible to be replaced was your call, since you want to show it in the light of jobs and money. If a robot replaces a burger flipper, no one is going to go up in arms. It's just a different job that is being changed to benefit the end user. I think it's going to be a long time before artificial intelligence can really make something of substance. We should be taking the time we have now to rethink our jobs, not try and regulate technology like this.
Reporter Jackson Ryan even said, quote, "AI definitely can't do the job of a journalist. To say so diminishes the act of journalism itself." I guess CNET didn't care to point out to their reporter that, hey, AI was in fact writing some of their articles. If you ask me, I think one of the reasons people have been hesitant or downright critical of CNET is because CNET didn't disclose that AI was writing some of the articles.
If you can't tell, does it even matter? Isn't that the entire point of the Turing test? While not being something other than a thought experiment, it is still the entire point. If you really can't tell what made it, then it doesn't really matter. You're only upset because it's the new thing to be mad at. But in 5 years, you won't care where your top 10 gaming movies is coming from.
Still, I'd argue that this one needs to be handled very carefully and with certain guidelines or regulations built in. I'm truly not sure what that's going to look like yet, but maybe years from now, we'll look back on the Getty Images lawsuit and see it as a catalyst for rules around AI forming.
I respectfully disagree. That point is absolutely stupid. Regulation will only hurt the smaller communities. If you are genuinely interested in helping shape the world of artificial intelligence, then you need to encourage the communities to regulate themselves. The major ones already do with much better results. Having out-of-touch old people write laws for this will only end badly. They can barely understand Facebook. I hope I've shown some light on this issue from a different perspective. Please remember that this technology won't be going anywhere. It's important to help it grow in a positive way. The method to do that is make sure it stays free and open for everyone. A special thanks to everyone who made it to the end